Greetings and blessings, my friends and fellow folks on this planet. I am your intrepid host for this morning. It is Tuesday morning, July the 3rd, 2018. And I want to say thank you, blessings, greetings, and I send my love out to anyone and everyone who watches this. And I'm hoping that the new folks who have subbed to this channel, I thank you very much. I really do. Um, and know that everything that I say from the heart. And I have meditated. If you've watched any of my other long videos, I'm going to try to keep this one short and to the point. I'm still learning about this and I get long-winded. I'm getting old and I have a tendency to ramble on. But the points that I want to continue with are that the things are really weird right now in the world, and we all feel it. Now, the last few days, I've had the opportunity to do some observations and take 2 or 3 steps back, see what's going on. And I say self-evaluation. As a director and an actor and puppeteer, storyteller, I realized that you have to look at your own work and see if you're, staying on point or rambling too much. And I've been rambling way too much. So I'm going to try to stay to the point. Now, in the description, I discuss about Earth update, and some things have been troubling me for a while. I have tried to stay off the topic because I really wish to be a positive influence in this world, a positive force. I know that we all have positive things within us, and many folks are awakening to this and aren't speaking in simple terms without getting overcomplicated or anything and going into any type of rituals or a cult or a religion or anything like that, because I want to stay as far away from any of that. This is strictly spiritual. It is you, your core energy, whether you want to call it your soul, your light, whatever you wish to discuss it as, however you wish to explain it. I wish that we will all come together and realize who our true beings are without any type of cult, religion, or anything like that. That's my purpose. And to help anyone who may be questioning things or whatever, and let's all get on the same mindset, whether it's about aliens or higher beings or masters or whoever. The whole point of this journey right now is about it's about us finding our true selves, wherever that is. It's about finding who we are. Some people have to go back in themselves. They have to dig up things and go back through things, and that helps. Other people don't have to do that. Let's just look forward. I know what I went through, and okay, fine. Now, but the whole idea, though, regardless of what religion or however you want to find your way to get there, and there are many people who just find it in nature by allowing themselves to accept it. And so there are simple techniques and simple things to do. Now, I have to talk about the earth a little bit, and without being fearful or anything like that, but it's really been on my mind a lot. And now this last weekend, I have to have 3 confirmations from 3 different sources to speak about something for me to come out and say it myself. Okay, I've had this feeling. I'm going to sit back and see what happens or how things develop or whatever, to the point. So, one thing is that, as I've been trying to explain to folks, is that the volcanoes are going to increase. So are the earthquakes. The earthquakes are being felt all the way up the New Madrid Fault, all the way up into Maine, into Vermont, and they found a new hot spot underneath Vermont. Okay, Vermont, New Hampshire, and parts of Massachusetts, I believe. And so, with that said, there are some earth changes that are going on. Now, I saw those heat signatures many months ago, and nobody said anything. Now, just within this last 4 days, then this topic has come up. Oh, did you know? Oh, okay. Now, these are from reliable sources, in my opinion, that I have been following, and that what they see or hear is really close to what I'm picking up or whatever, or seeing, or my own research, and that the human residence is having a big effect on the earth right now. And you can almost set your watch to it. I mean, every 2 hours, you can go out and check and look on the graph, and it's like, toom, toom, toom. And the last week or so, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Hello, Miss Marie. How are you? Many blessings and greetings to you, my dear. Um, so the earth is definitely being buzzed. I did a video last week in the middle of the morning, about this time, I reckon, and all of a sudden there were two or three people that came on that all felt the same thing, was the synchronicity thing. And I'm kind of feeling the same thing this morning. And it's like, thank you, Miss Marie. Um, and the vibrations that we're getting and they're coming in from the galaxy. There were some solar flares that came off the sun within the last day or so, and we should be getting some of that solar stream in a couple of days, if we're not already feeling some of it. I haven't checked that recently. Been more in tune to what's going on with the magnetic fields on the earth, and they are collapsing. There are several satellite sites that you can check, like what the magnetic flux is. And I'm speaking from the United States point of view. We're getting all kinds of doses of flux and this and that show up on these satellite images. And I knew that it's just like, you can almost feel them hit you, kind of thing. But at the same time, these waves coming in have got some really weird highs and lows. I don't know how else to explain it. And I know that in having conversations with other people, they're having the same types of issues. And so the best thing we can do is just not fight it, which is really difficult not to do sometimes. I mean, I just envision myself as a potato in the microwave, and that's how I feel what's going on right now. But the back to the earth and the changes, in that something that I've been talking about for a while has been there's something strange going on in the Gulf of Mexico. And so in my research the last 3 days, there's something coming out of the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf of Mexico used to rotate like this. And when that Deep Horizon oil spill happened, there was so much oil, and they put so much Corexit in the water to sink the oil so nobody could see it. There's so much poison in the Gulf of Mexico that it slowed the Gulf and its rotation, which also in turn has slowed the Gulf Stream. Now, this has been proven. All you got to do is go back a couple of years and look at how the Gulf used to act and how it used to go up the eastern seaboard, which took warm water all the way over to England, where they didn't used to have as bad weather as they've been having up in there. And so it's like everything affects everything. And I've been tracking this for a long time. So one of the things that has to do with this is that it's come to my attention through 2-3 other sources from different places that, hey, guess what? There's information that there is a heat anomaly in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico that they're trying to hush. Now, the issue with that is that it's showing up as sulfates coming out of the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. And some of the sulfates are coming up my way and over my house from out in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. From what? There's just supposed to be water out there. Where are all these particulates that are just coming up from the ocean and then being spread on the trade winds, coming up into the state of Georgia and up along the coast of Florida from out in the middle of the Gulf of nothing? Where's that coming from? It's because all of the chemicals and everything are starting to collect as a whirlpool. And as the sun heats it up, which it's summertime here in the Gulf, and because everything is slowed down, there are chemical reactions going on. And these particulates are heating up, which is the Corexit and some of the oil and all the other garbage that's just in the Gulf of Mexico because of the, Mississippi, blah, blah, blah. So, but all of these things are collecting now, but they're having a global event happening in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. Now, the other thing is that where they drilled fractured a fault line in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico when they drilled at the deep horizon. Now, I've been having these horrible visions of these salt domes collapsing, and I was showed this 8-10 years ago, and I try not to speak about it. However, it's come to my attention again through 3 different sources that there is more proof that another salt dome has collapsed in Louisiana, and that there is sulfuric type venting coming out of the ground, bubbling up through the collapsed salt dome. Now, what they did, and if you could do it, just type in salt domes, Gulf of Mexico, and you'll find all kinds of things. And what they do is they find oil near the salt domes. And so they drill down next to it and extract the oil. Well, depending on what happens, sometimes the casing will get too close to the edge of the salt dome and water will get in and contaminate, dissolve, and then there's nothing left there. And the salt dome, which is holding up the Gulf of Mexico, there's a bunch of them all up into, I think there's one that goes as far as up towards Memphis, Tennessee, and up along in there. And so these salt domes are ancient and been there. And so that's why they've been drilling oil in Oklahoma. Anyway, but to the point, though, when these start collapsing, something's going to have to replace it. And, well, there's going to be some changes. So we've already got issues with Hawaii putting out even more lava. It's even coming out even faster. 17 miles an hour, man. What a ride that would be in a kayak if it wouldn't melt. But to the point, though, Guatemala's getting hit really hard off the coast of Chile. And the Galapagos Islands, that volcano is started erupting big time. And I warned about this for a while, that there was issues going to happen along the pressure coming out of Hawaii, like Dutch Sense has been talking about for a long time, is transferring all the way over to the eastern portion of the Pacific Rim. Now, like I keep saying, 3 sources, 3 other sources, but they're all saying the same things. And I'm like, are we all picking this up or what? But the thing is that the earthquakes are happening. It's not that we're making this up. We're saying, hey, pay attention to what has already happened and will likely continue, if not get worse. Please pay attention. These are warning signs, and not to get everybody all, woo. No, but this is going on. And we have to be honest about this, Now, whether or not all the predictions come through, but when I found out that another salt dome had collapsed, I was like, oh, man, shoot, please. I was trying to stay away from that subject. 3 different sources over 4 days, salt dome collapse, blah, blah, blah. Crap. Okay, so next, the earth wobble. Now, I'm sitting here tonight looking out my favorite window when I'm always sitting here talking about I can see the moon. Now, a few nights ago, Friday night maybe or Saturday, I was sitting here and I said, I can see the moon right there and it's so many fingers up. Now, to see the moon, I have to lean out. It has moved that far in 4 days. And I use my fingers to gauge with, which is about when I use my degree gauge, it actually has to depend on how far I extend my hand, but it's a good 5 degrees. So in the last 4 days, it's been 5, 10, 15. The moon has swung back up almost 20 degrees. And this will be the 5th day. So it's like, holy crap. Now, the other thing is that I think it was Jupiter. It might be Saturn. I can't remember. I don't think it's Mars. But several days ago, Mars was down here and the moon was just below it and pretty close. The next day, Mars was like about the same place, but the moon was up a little higher. And I went, The following day, it was moon had moved way up top over here and past, Jupiter. And then the following day, it moved way up here and even further away. And I was like, Wade, hello, Mr. Wade. How are you? Oh, mimic. Yes. I see you, Miss Marie. Yes. It mimics, and it's Null School. Coincidentally, me being David Null, but Null School. And you can put it on all the different types of satellites, and you can check all the different types of particulates. And that's what I was going through this weekend, because I've just had a feeling that there's something weird going on. But when I saw this anomaly in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, I was like, what? And the particulates are headed right up towards us, where I'm living, right along the Georgia-Alabama line. And I'm like, and I mean, like a 50, 60 mile wide band of particulates coming out of the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. What the hell's in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico? Is that the volcano that's spewing and these are bubbles that are coming up? Because that's been the warning that there was a volcano because of what they did to the salt domes and the drilling in the Gulf. They've tapped into stuff. And because the pressure from the Pacific is moving towards the east, towards the Caribbean, towards the Gulf of Mexico, that this pressure is transferring. And just watch that sense for a few days, and you'll get the idea of how this pressure is being transferred. It is happening. It is going on, and they are covering up stuff in the Gulf of Mexico. Go to these satellites and check it for yourself. The particulates coming off the Gulf of Mexico ain't right, my friends, period. The warnings are now that if you eat anything out of the Gulf of Mexico, you're literally putting your life at risk. And I'm like, man, I've lived on the Gulf all my life, and Tampa, and, I lived there growing up, and man, to see the Gulf being dead and to see the weather patterns and stuff over the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, where I'm sitting here in South Georgia, the last couple of days, there's some kind of low forming, and the clouds are coming in this way, and then they're coming in from over here on the north. Let's see, wait, that's north. It'd be coming in from the northeast, which is odd for around here. We usually get them from the west or from the south, but to have them come from the northeast, that means the wind is coming off of the Atlantic, which is like odd for us here. But the thing is, there's this swirling vortex over this area down here. And the thunderstorms have been coming from this way, and then they turn around and then they come back up from the south. A couple hours later, it's like they don't even know which way to go. And I mean, it's really strange, odd weather patterns. Now, I'm grateful for the rain, but to the point, usually they come in with a front or they come out. I mean, but to come down and then go back up the same day is like, what? So then going to the satellites, if you look at how the wind patterns are and what the temperature differentials are between the atmosphere, troposphere, ionosphere, yada yada up there, and the Earth, and what's going on between at the different levels. Oh, I see somebody wrote something. Let me look here. Modern times and technology allow us to have more awareness of Earth shifts compared to the old stories told in the past as written records. We should be better prepared. Absolutely. And the things that I'm seeing, it's like I'm observing them, and I've spoke about them from sitting here at my window What the other thing is that I've noticed is by looking at the maps, comparing, where the moon is, and the moon is being slung all over the place. There's more information this last week about the amount of ice that's melting from under the Antarctic. Why is this important? Because more fluid water versus solid water is causing the earth to wobble more, which makes sense. So why is the moon moving more erratically in the sky? It's because the earth is wobbling and it's being slung back and forth trying to keep up with us. Why are the tides and other weird things happening? Dabu 7 did a follow-up yesterday or today about the crack in Mexico that started out a little here, a little there, and now it's swallowing houses, and they're telling people to move out of their villages because the earth is expanding. And some of these scientists and all are like, no, the earth can't expand, but it is. It's just heating up, and what happens to anything that gets heated up? It expands. It's a thermodynamic blah, 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 but it does. So, to be prepared, though, if anybody is living anywhere near the ocean, you all need to just be careful because in what I was shown about 3 years ago was that as the energy transferred from Guatemala over the Caribbean, over towards Puerto Rico and the Haiti and the islands down there, which have been getting hit really hard, to pay attention to the Mid-Atlantic Rift, that as the earthquake started on the Mid-Atlantic Rift, if they started going all the way down to Antarctica and then started transferring across the southern tip of South America, that's a warning sign. This last 10 days, there were a bunch of them that hit down the Mid-Atlantic Ridge and just so happened to come around the tip of South America. And I went, oh, shit. Okay, here we go. So you have to listen up. They're not telling everybody what's going on. Now, I'm not saying the earth is coming to an end. That's where I'm trying to stay away from. But we do need to be prepared. And because if enough shaking goes on, they're already talking about the Cascadia up there around Mount Rainier, which has had a bunch of quakes. Mount St. Helens had a bunch of quakes. All the way down Cascadia, all the way down through into Northern California, through Oregon, also over in Nevada and up in there. The whole ring of all those old volcanoes running right down through Nevada and all over down in there. There's a lot more volcanoes than I ever thought of just by hanging out with Dutch Sense a couple of times and letting him take you around to all the domes and things. California is just one great big volcano. Well, as things are heating up, some of these things are going to come back alive. Just pay attention. If you live anywhere near something like that, be aware of where you are. Awareness. And if you can get away or find an opportunity, please do so. Now, there's supposed to be, it's sort of an unwritten rule law thingy that if you will pay attention to your own senses and like just say a little prayer, if you're in a danger zone, we'll say, Creator, give me a warning, give me a sign, give me a something. But then you have to trust the feeling. And that I know that I've had about 24-hour notice. And even when I've done a video within 12 to 24 hours that things have happened. And so it's not really a rule of nature or something, but there will be signs and things and weirdness in nature that if you will stay aware to it, you'll get a vibration like, oop, something's coming, whether it be an earthquake or something. There will be a projected 12-hour, 24-hour feeling And maybe it's Mother Earth warning those of us who will pay attention. That's what my little message is getting right now. That it's actually Mother Earth will warn us 12 to 24 hours if we will pay attention. I know she's proved me more right than not. So, but anyway, I just want to say it's just like, don't listen to me, listen to yourself. Tune yourself into Mother Earth, tune yourself into this energy, and you'll have, I say what I got. I'm just thankful I'm here and being able to speak to you. But impart this onto your awareness. You have this ability. Every one of us has this ability. Somebody said, that's what you just keep preaching this, that everybody has this. Yes, we do. We all have this ability. And this is what everybody has forgotten. My prayer is that everybody remembers. Please remember how it used to be, for your own safety. What do I get out of it? Just the thought of knowing that somebody else will realize and go, oh man, that's it. But that also that we are going to help bring a better awareness, and hopefully we can remove as much fear as possible. Knowledge will stop fear, because the more you know on a particular subject, the more that you can prepare and be aware and just everything. And so this foreknowledge, I guess I'm here to be part of that. So I don't have like a time frame, only that I'm going to just say this as there are rumors banging around and that have been kind of started about January of this year, that the middle to the end of July and the first week or two of August was going to be really interesting here on planet Earth, politics, stuff. Okay. Now, I have no idea what all this entails. However, as volcanoes are increasing, all of the planets are going to be on one side of the sun, starting, I guess, in just a few weeks. So all the little exoplanets, and we're all going to be on one side of the sun. Now, that has more to do with electricity and magnetics than it has to do with heat and this and that and the other thing. However, we're also going to be at a close approach to Mars. So electrically, with all these other planets and everything on one side of the sun, we don't know what's going to happen, but we know through things that have happened in the past, when these events happen, we have more earthquakes, we have more volcanoes. This can be proven going back through the history of these events, where the planets were, and then what happened during that time as far as Earth events. We are headed into this right now. So we all need to be aware, have whatever we need wherever you are. So there are folks that are literally like ringing the bell going, move away from the coast, get out of California, move away from the coast, get out of Florida, move away from the, and I'm like, and these people don't usually ring the bell and say, move. I mean, there's this one person who usually travels around and gives seminars and refuses to fly until October. Just saying, like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not getting on a plane. I'm not flying anywhere, and I damn sure ain't taking a bus. But refuses to go. I'm staying home. And these folks are very attuned and have been aware of some of these things for quite a long time. So I look at them and go, now I know the feelings I'm picking up. I know the feelings and the angel messages I'm getting. And so I'm correlating my personal information, feelings, however you want to call it, my mini little downloads or whatever. But also it's my science that I've been studying. So it's not just some little, no, I've been checking this, right? So, but when I see off in the corner over here, somebody ringing a bell who don't normally ring a bell and going, pay attention, I have to wonder, because they have been right more times than not. When you get past that 75% mark, I listen to you a lot, we can all be wrong at times, and earth changes and dimensional shifts and all other kind of weird stuff, and the waves coming in and so forth. We can perceive these things, but can I tell you exactly how it's going to happen? No. I can give you a feeling of what it feels like in my interpretation and the best that I can in trying to communicate these things. Okay. So where do we go from here? Well, just think in terms of what would be bad. The biggest thing is electricity. If the lines go down from earthquakes, storms, just natural disaster, okay, just a bunch of shimmy, shimmy, shake. Think of a couple of bridges being, closed off. There are floods everywhere. I mean, in Iowa, and cars get picked up and, taken down the middle of the street in downtown. What? I mean, I'm 66 years old soon, and I'm like, I don't remember this kind of stuff ever. So, check your elevation. What are your surroundings? Look around your town. Do you live next to a creek that might flood? Is there a bridge or something that you go by? What would happen? Do you live in the hills where there's where if a couple of inches of rain falls in an hour or two, that your creek might flood? Look at it from a different point of view. Well, it's never done it before. Yeah, but you better check now. Check your elevation. Check where your watersheds are. Go on Google Earth and zoom around your area from up above. Check what's out there. There might be a pond upstream from you, which is from me. However, it did break years ago, but half a mile or so up the hill from me, there was a 3-acre pond and a dam broke. And all that water flooded down and across my property, down to the river in the back. And I'm talking about a surprise flood event. I didn't hear anything, but anyway, so look at your area, find out what's around you. And if something like that happens, where's the highest ground you can get to safely and easily? Just do your due diligence and spend a half hour on Google Earth over your area. Look at a train. If you have to cross a bridge to get away from the coast or something, which bridge is more likely? Does it have 2 lanes or 4 lanes? Just different things. So anyway, but the warning, which seems to be impending from my point of view, is that if some of these earth changes are going to happen, how bad, we don't know. But if you're on the wrong side of a bridge, and that's the only one for 20 miles to get to the store or get to wherever you need to go, then you're going to have to make those arrangements. The other part of it is that if you lose your, how you get across the waterway or something like that, do you have a backup? Can you go this way? Is there some place over yonder? Whatever it is, figure out another way. Have that in your head. And that's just a little bit of pre-planning. So if something does really happen, any type of natural disaster, and we're all subject to them, just know where you are. What is your awareness level? So I'm always saying is 2 5-gallon buckets, one to sit on for your business and the other one to carry water. Get some kitty litter to put in there when you have to do your business. Because if the lights go down and you're somewhere where you're relying on water, you're going to need that water. If you're in where you have a lot of water, if you're living in a community or something and there's a decent amount of water, if the lights go out, fill up your bathtub, fill up every pot and pan you can until the water stops, and store it. Always use your water 2 or 3 times if you can. In other words, if you need some drinking water, okay, fine. But if you're going to wash in something, use that water. Use that water to rinse something off for your boots or scrubbing the cat's paws, whatever it is, and then use that to flush your commode if you don't have other arrangements. Use your water 2, 3, 4 times, as many as you can. That is imperative. A bathtub, you can go without washing. You can take a washcloth and clean yourself off with just a little bit of water. And then that water can go to flush your commode or water something or whatever the deal is. So if you put your mindset in that, then you're going to be able to survive a lot easier than some folk about panicking. Now, if you have something in the refrigerator, the best thing that I do is I always try to keep those frozen packs that you put in a cooler. Keep some of those in your refrigerator. I mean, in your freezer, because if the lights go out, you can take them out and put them in your refrigerator, and try it. Keep the door closed. And if the power is only out for a few hours or maybe a day, the stuff in your refrigerator will last. Keep your freezer closed. But those little freezer doobly things, it's amazing how much they will help, especially if you put them beside a gallon of milk or something else that's more perishable, whatever it is. Um, I've given this tip before. Yard lights like this one right here that I put upside down and it didn't charge. I got a it's black so you can't see it. It's got a little solar panel, two screws. You can take it out there. Oh, that's a good shot. And there's a AAA battery in there that's rechargeable. Okay, now with that you get the light, and there's a little gizmo in there that's a little voltage regulator, and it shuts the light off, and the sun comes on. There's a little circuit board in there. Okay, but the thing is that you come with this and that. I got six of them for $5. Now, if you put these in your yard and keep them charged up, not only do you have yard lights, but if your lights go out in your house, these things are invaluable. Just take them out in the yard the next day, and it will get you by. So for a few bucks and some of these, and don't panic. All right. Um, I noticed this is going into the second year. There used to be rechargeable batteries everywhere. It's now cheaper to buy a yard light with a rechargeable battery in it than it is to try to buy the battery. It's cheaper. I get and if the battery and the gizmo goes out, I've got a bunch of these little solar collectors that I'm putting together, and I'm building a solar setup station anyway, for some earth batteries that I've been working on. So so even when the battery and everything goes out, I still have the little electronic gizmo on the inside, and the solar collector thingy use will last for years, and especially when you hook them together. But anyway. So it's cheaper to buy these than it is to buy the batteries, and you get a recharger. So, but if you think in the practical, so now what else could happen? Do you live anywhere near an earthquake area? Well, the middle of Georgia has had another earthquake. There's been another couple of earthquakes up around Chattanooga, Tennessee. There's been a couple more up the line, up the Appalachians, up towards Maine and Vermont here just within the last week. Okay. More stuff out in Kansas. I mean, it was a 4 point something out in the middle of Kansas. Northern Kansas, close to whatever is north of it. Anyway, to the point though, there's more stuff happening. Pay attention to your area, wherever you live. If you live where there's rock slides or something like that, pay attention. The rain's been doing some strange things to the mountains. Now, I know the people who live in the mountains. I've been in the mountains. And I've seen the mountains from the inside up. And like up in the Appalachians and up in there, there's some old mining caves and things that I've been into. And the further back I go in, the creepier it would get. And it's just one boulder sitting on top of a couple of other boulders with some dirt in between. Now, down here in Georgia and Florida, the caverns are more limestone and rock, and they're like caves. But the caves and stuff that I've been up in the Appalachians, the caves are more like hollow spots between big boulders. So if you wash away the dirt and do a little bit of shaking, them damn things are coming down. And I've been in one mine in North and see. Yeah, it's still in North Carolina. It's almost to Tennessee, on Highway 64. but there's some old mines up in the national forest. And one old mine that I went in, it's like I'd go up there about every 2 or 3 months. And one month I went in and blah, blah, blah. And a couple of months later, I went in, and one of the timbers that had been up like this with an old brace across the top had collapsed in now. And there was a great big giant boulder on top of that. And I thought, ooh, that wasn't there a couple of months ago. Holy crap. What happened? And I'm not aware of any earthquakes that happened in the meantime. But the point was, I was shocked to see that what I thought was a stable, not a cave, tunnel, yeah, mine, thank you, was that how unstable it actually was, by being inside the mountain that way, So anyway, to the point though, folks who are in the mountains, you may think you're sitting on something hard, but unless it's one great big piece of granite, it's just nothing more than a bunch of boulders sitting on dirt. So y'all be careful, look at your surroundings. It's important. I've done some other research about particulates in the atmosphere. Now, one of the things that's really strange is how the higher winds are coming in. And going to the Knoll School map, I would share my screen and show you what I'm talking about, but this poor little thing doesn't do that very well. And so, but if you go there and check on the different satellites, and then there's also a place where you can check on the SO4. You can check on the different particulates coming off the coast of Africa and what's coming in. And something that was strange that came up the other day was that some of the news feeds were talking about, all the dust particulates coming off the coast of Africa. And I said, let me check on this myself. They're showing me these pictures and they're saying, it's even in the Gulf of Mexico. Well, when I did my checking, it's not dust off of Africa that's in the Gulf of Mexico. What's in the Gulf of Mexico and showing up as dust particulates are actually coming from the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, BP Earthwatch, I'm not putting him down here. He was saying, look at the dust particulates. And I was agreeing with him. And then I just went in to follow up. And when I found out, wait a minute, when I followed in and did the different tests at the different layers and the different heights, I realized what they were not BP Earthwatch, mind you, the other folks. That's dust particles coming off of the African continent. It's not for us here around the Gulf of Mexico. It's coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. So, but it's showing up as the same type of particulates. But if you watch and look at the satellites, you'll notice the dust comes off of Africa and it gets towards the Caribbean and some over here and blah, blah, and it really thins out. But when you get up towards the Straits of Cuba and in between the Yucatan Peninsula there, all of a sudden there's just like this big plume of the same kind of stuff. No, wait a minute. It petered out by the time it got to Cuba, and then at Cuba it blossomed out. And you're trying to tell me that that's what came off of the coast of Africa. I'm sorry. The particulates fell by the time it got to Cuba. But you're claiming that you get my drift. We have to be careful about this stuff because they're showing something and it looks sort of like the same thing, but it's not. And so me as being part of the watcher that I am, it's my job to say, that's one. Something else too, they were showing I'm not sure if it was Knoll School, but it was showing all the different things. And we're having these anomalies again. They're happening like once a week, twice a week, where you'll see this really weird, jaggedy pulse thing go up on the satellite and then disappear. And these things are coming out of the Antarctic, going up towards Africa and England, way up that way, up the coast. Portugal, Spain. But to the point, though, they're happening. They come off. Usually, they come off of the South Pole region, and they do this little jiggity jag up, and you can see it on certain types of the radar. And BP Earthwatch has done it. I think MBB 333. I know Dabu's done it, And so it's like, that these anomalies show up, and I'm like, okay, but I've been watching them too, going, wonder what that is. But so consequently, there are these weird, strange anomalies that are showing up on the radar. And as we as human beings are, what the heck what is that? I don't know. But if it is the Earth reacting, then it's really reacting in some weird electromagnetic things. If it's something that the bad guys are doing, there's a bunch of them. Or is it something else? But here's the thing. You can't deny that the anomalies are happening. That is a true statement. The anomalies are there. So we need to pay attention to those anomalies. Now let's see. Air quality. Oh, the magnetosphere. Oh my goodness. My goodness. The magnetosphere. We have been getting more energy from the opposite way of the sun than from the sun. Usually we get a really good stream coming off of the sun and doing this little thing. The electric goes all the way around it and tails around and all these vortexes and stuff. We're just getting this little, and we're getting bombarded from the backside, from the other side of space. So the dust storm on Mars is continuing and seems to be stabilizing, but not letting up. One of the moons of Saturn, I believe, and one on Jupiter have also showed extra excitement. Also as far out as Neptune or Uranus. However, all of the planets are being affected. Even Venus has lit up more brightly. So we can look out in space and see just our planets and everything changing. I notice as I'm sitting here looking at the moon and going, I can't believe this. Just a couple of nights ago, I was complaining about how low it was, and now it has retracted in 4 days. This will be the 5th day. So it's really hauling butt back up. Usually it takes 2 weeks. It'll come down, it'll linger for a few days, and even Brian of Milky Way Weekly said, it really set way south, and it did. But now all of a sudden it's way back up again. So the Earth is slinging. The Earth currents. I was surprised at how strong some of the jet streams are, and how crazy wicked they're not acting right at all. Now, my point to this is that use my little light bulb because it's white and easier to see, but if this being the North Pole, so if our Earth is slinging back and forth like this, which it is, so if the jet stream is spinning this way and then we happen to go like this and the jet stream gets involved, well, so as it tries to change along with everything else, but the Earth then, because of melting ice and freezing ice and things changing and the magma on the inside of the Earth, all these combinations are changing the balance of the Earth. So then the Earth wobbles back down. So as in my position here, using this. The moon was at this position, and now it's at this position in 4 days, where used to take at least 10 days. So now I'm sitting here, got to look out. So here's the moon. So that means we've been wobbling. The jet stream can't keep up. I mean, the faster this wobble is happening, which to me is very evident looking out the window at the moon's moving faster in its wobble. It's also rotating back and forth this way, has been observed from many people on different parts of the Earth, just from looking up without a telescope. Just, hey, there you go. But then also, for me to go outside, now that the moon is not shining as brightly, I can go out and also check where the Big Dipper is. And the Big Dipper, again, is more overhead, which means that here on my little Earth, with the moon being higher in the sky, as the moon comes up higher, it also rolls up so that the Big Dipper is straight overhead, which is not supposed to happen down here in the South, in my position. I'm almost on the Florida line, for God's sakes. I shouldn't see the entire Big Dipper over my head. And that means it's harder for me to see the North Pole at this time of the year because of the density of the atmosphere and stuff. So, and plus my neighbor's lights. But anyway, but the North Pole is way high in the sky again, you know. And so we're doing this number. It goes down a little bit and it comes back up, and the moon's doing this floppy, and all these solar wind, jet stream of the wind is trying to keep up. So are things erratic? Oh, you betcha. So there's even been a more suggestion, and I was, you know, I had heard about this before, and this is several years ago, that the Earth is moving further away from the sun by just a smidgen. It's also slow in its rotation. However, I think that's just because of all the hiccups between, you know, the magma and it's the combination of all of the above. So it's like, well, let's not freak out. Well, then there's also stuff that's like showing up in the Kuiper Belt that I was like, whoa, that's one that has been kind of on the burner, that there are things in the Kuiper Belt now that are showing back up again, or being more prominent, meaning very large objects out there coming in. So is that the galactics? I'm not sure. Can't tell you that. But it fits part of the rest of the plan that has been laid out for the last 10 years that I'm aware of, that I have been aware of, not that they have. Okay. Now, where does that put us all? We got to stay positive. We have to stay positive. I know this is some crazy, dumb butt stuff coming up. I'm getting folks from saying that they knew I was crazy before and why my family won't talk to me. And I'm like, I understand. I'm talking some stuff that might be so far out there, but at the same time, if you look around, here are the things that I see. And I can't show them to you on my computer screen, but I can tell you where to go, what to look at, and blah, 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 and you can see for yourself. But this is happening. I'm giving you the short version of it. At least I'm trying. And to the point, though, and then you lovely people show up. Oh, whoa, I got to put my glasses on. But I hate doing this with glasses on and looking at the screen. Hey, Tinfoil Hatter, if you're still there. Yes, I meant Polaris, the North Star. Yep. It's a Polaris, from my point of view, used to be like two or three, maybe four fingers above the treetop when I looked off to the horizon in the dark. And now it's like, it's at 45 degrees or more above the horizon from here in South Georgia. It's not supposed to be that way. It never has, you know. But anyway, yes, Polaris, yes. Whoa, guys, you guys been just chatting away and I ain't even been paying attention. What's on Mimic? Oh, yeah, you're right, Wade. Mimic, that satellite. You're absolutely right. Yeah, the solar lights are just something simple. You know, you'll always have a backup of something. Tinfoil, yes, at the end of 212, that's when I had a lot of my awakening. Sure enough, I was in the middle of my medicine man, shaman training. I mean, heavy duty, you know, days in the woods with ceremony and sweat lodge and prayer and meditation and all that. But anyway, and at the same time in 2012 and early 13 is when I had my really big, oh my God, jolt. But what has been stated is that what was supposed to have happened then, two things. The Mayan calendar actually ended this last December in 2017. Our calendar and their calendar is off because of the fact that the planet is further out anyway. So with that said, though, but that we have, when they cranked up CERN back then, they fractured the timelines. And so they splintered, they frayed. It's like the rope being cut and little frays coming out, okay? They fractured and frayed the timelines. And it's the galactics that have been trying to put this back together. There is a lot of hope for us because we've made it this far. And those who would be killing us, we have a different set of bosses. Now, I got to say this. One guy saw 2 moons yesterday. He swears what he's seeing are the big giant spaceships out there that are there to help buffet some of these energies. Call them whatever. They move around too easy. They can't be planetary. I'm sorry. Oh, but it was over here. No, just stop and think about this. I know you saw it, and I know, but here's my point. Natural space objects don't move around like that. I agree. You probably saw something, but what you saw was different than a planet. You're trying to say it's a planet. And I'm saying you got to expand your horizon here. Because last summer, the word was coming out through Galactics, they were going to start showing themselves more. Well, if you're a planet the size of the moon, which the moon is, I mean, if you're a spaceship the size of the moon, which the moon is a spaceship, you have to just take that into consideration. The moon is a hollow object out there and is held there through unnatural means, because no other object as big as the moon would stay there all the time the way it does, period. So with that said, so another one shows up beside it. Well, they're using what has been described as a mini black hole projection, or in a way, actually maybe suction, to where out in front of the planet or moon or whatever they're moving, they put a fixed point into space where there's not supposed to be anything. They don't want to harm anything, but they put this little old tiny black hole, and because they attached like an electromagnetic field when they create the black hole, it will actually drag whatever they want as large as a planet wherever they want it to go. And it's like, that doesn't seem so far-fetched in a way, that if you understand the technology, that you could use it to move an entire planet. Oh, that actually seems plausible to me. I could get that. Nancy Leader is annoying and not very helpful for her long-time career. Does she have a day job? Well, she's in her 70s, I believe, or maybe even pushing 80, so she's probably on Social Security. But some of the stuff that Nancy says, I'm like, okay. Yours increased in 2012. See, a lot of us woke up then. We didn't understand what it was, but we woke up. Thing about dreaming is we seldom suspect it's a dream, no matter how absurd, most peculiar. That's true. And part of my learning as a shaman has been to differentiate what a dream is that might just be a dream, or something that is like, well, I was really creepy, weird, and something. So what you do is what I've learned, that if the incident isn't clear, you immediately put a message in that you say, I require more information, please. Because if there was supposed to be something in the message, then ask yourself and whoever or whatever, I need more information, or please replay that. So, and more likely than not, like has happened for me, I will get backup information, or something will happen on the internet, whatever it is, I will get more information. So that's always like a dum da da dum. And some of the things that I have dreamed that were so absurd later on became true, which made me look at my dreams in a whole different way. But then that put me more on my path as a shamanic type of individual, that I wish to follow this path really deep. I really want to go down the old rabbit hole, as it were. But at the same time, I want to go down the rabbit hole, get the information, and get back out. That peculiar state in between awake and dreaming is easy to fall asleep in. Yeah, something has happened in my world, and I've tried to explain this, and it's like sitting on the fence, and you can see that it's like dark over there and light over here, and there's a gray area. And there was actually, I think there was a Stargate episode where part of the planet was dark and the rest of it was light, and they were getting some kind of infection. And when they turned, they would send their loved ones into the darkness and shoot them if anybody came into the anyway. So, but to the point though, what resided in the dark, it was a really good allegory, I guess you could say, or analogy possibly, in that, we lived, they both families kind of lived on the edge in this gray area, and no one crossed the boundary, and or there were consequences for both sides. But at the same time, the people in the light, it was their loved ones who, because of this infection, ended up in the darkness. So the people of the light were always focusing on the ones they lost to the darkness, which was like really weird. But anyway, but to the point, the people of the light had to go into the darkness to understand it in order to fix it. And they actually got all of their relatives and everyone back because they were cured of the disease, which created it. So we have to go into the darkness, to find sometimes the solution to what we're looking for. I watched the settings, the sun and the moon swoop orbit. So the lunar orbit is now in the summer orbit. So the moon will be setting where the summer sun would be positioned, sort of. But keep an eye on it from your location, because mine's changing. I mean, I could sit here right now with, 3 fingers held up the way I do, and it's like it's moved 4 fingers. And above, it's actually now above the top of the window frame. So I have to lean forward to see the moon now. And it was way down the other night. So it's swooping even more. And the more the earth is doing this thing, what used to take 10 days or whatever, it used to take longer than 10 days. It used to take like several months for it to travel that far and back. Not anymore. And the fact that it's wobbling even more right now just was, but the calendar is a record of the events, just like record when the needle reaches the end, we flip it over. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You know how there are people who say they channel extraterrestrials from Pleiades or Lemuria. Why they all have hive mind and have conventions like MUFON. Just curious. Lucidity. I wish to speak on that since you brought it up, Miss Marie. And when I was a child in the 60s, okay, now I was born in 1952, so we're talking about 63 or 64. Yes, the moon and the earth are both wobbling. Absolutely, Mr. Wade. Absolutely. It's slingshotting. And the moon because of it and the earth because of it. So they're counteracting. And Both are trying to catch up, plus forgotten all this outside information. So it's like okie dokie. Um, but to the thing about Pleiades. Now, I was looking at Pleiades out the window from Tampa, Florida. In the middle of the night, I would wake up and there it would be. And I would go, look, there's a little cup up there. And in the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, now we learned it in the Cub Scouts because that's about in 63 or 4, I would have still been in the Cub Scouts, Webelos, moving into Boy Scouts. So why is that important? Because I'd been studying the stars. We'd been always went on camping trips. And so I knew, but that was always called Seven Sisters. There's the Seven Sisters. Okay. So later on then, when I went to college and I took astronomy, I learned Pleiades and all about it. And then I got a telescope and I used to look at it and blah, blah, blah. And then, there was Edgar Cayce and all the study. I started learning about Edgar Cayce in 1968. So I was way ahead of the curve on a lot of other folks. Not to say I'm great. That's not my point. Where some people may be just catching on, I was doing this in 65, 6, 7, 8. Big Dipper is Canis Major, and the Little Dipper is Canis Minor, I think, if I got that right. Anyway, but to the point, though, so I'm looking out the window as a little kid, and I don't know, I just look up there at that little thing, and I go, man, that just really feels something. So now folks are talking about Pleiades and all this, that, and the other thing. Now, I got blue eyes. Yeah, okay. And there are certain traits, quote, the Pleiadians have. But as much information that I have received, I do my best to stay away from saying I'm speaking for the Pleiadians. Now, I realize that I'm speaking from a collective type thought. But there's something that speaking about the hive mind. Now, if you get 100 intelligent people in the same room, and we're all talking about the same thing. I don't mean a conference per se, but I'm just saying you get 100 intelligent people in the room, and everybody's talking about this and that and the everything. But so folks start having a like mind thought. Okay. Now, because everybody is in close proximity to one another, they're also feeding off each other's auras and the electrical charge that's going on that most folks can't see with their naked eye. They can perceive a lot of it. They can feel this. They feel the energy in the room. That's what it is. They're tapping into that quantum area, okay, where all information resides, by the way, okay. I've tapped into it a bunch of times trying to figure out problems and engineering issues and all that. Okay. So, but now if these 100 people are like-minded, does that make them hive mind? If there is a speaker on a lecture and he is the commentator or the master of ceremonies and he's facilitating the event, asking questions, tossing things around, is he the king or the queen bee of the hive mind because he's leading this group of folks in a discussion? Not talking about a move on. I'm just talking 100 smart people talking about something. So we have to be careful on how we discuss this. Like clairaudience, yes. And so, because there's been too many times when groups of people get together and have a brainstorming session. That's what it is. But I want to make a point about this. Is this hive-minded? Now, I think of hive mind as the Borg. Okay, that's my reference to hive mind. They can barely work autonomously, but they are a group and they have a connection to a hive type mentality, all for one and none, or, Now, there is what I'm trying to help explain to people, that there is this quanta thought level that's a radio station kind of deal. It's out there. It's out there for everybody, all beings everywhere. It's out there. And that we, as our individual people, need to learn how we tune into certain parts of it. And I mean, I hear radio stations, other people are like, well, I hear radio stations all the time. And I've gone to a radio station and turned the dial, hit it, and boing, and it'd be playing the song right where I was listening. So, yeah, you too, huh, Marie? Yeah. These things that are like really weird to other people are kind of normal to us, who, and it's hard for other people to understand, because if they don't experience it, then how in the hell can you try to explain it? No offense to a newbie. It's like, well, wait a minute now. Well, I'm way past thousands of things happening to me. Okay. And it's only certain incidences that, that now I like write down and keep track of and things. So, but with this consciousness, we are all having a similar type thought right now with this confirmation. And so there might be somebody else on another YouTube or some other kind of thing that are discussing the similar things, because I've noticed it's like really weird. I'll put out something about trust and shame and something, and within 2 days' time, at least one other YouTube channel that I have liked or something or watched or whatever will come up with this almost the same type of topic. And I mean, it's almost like, I don't know if they're watching me or not. Not the point. I'm glad they brought up the subject, but it's just coincidental. Like, well, I did a video the other day about, okay, thank you. Now, am I tuning into the hive mind, or are we all tuning into what I would consider the quantum of all? So that there are aliens from, Aldebaran, there are Palladians. They can all use this little wavelength in here. And some of it is like a CB radio. If you've ever had a CB radio going up and down the interstate and listening to the truckers, especially in the old days, it was a riot, especially being an old trucker. So, you turn on the CB radio and hear all these conversations going around with all this weird and stuff. And, somebody will fade in, and then somebody will be like, I'm 20 miles north and I'm keying in with a blah, 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 burger one night. Okay, fine. But the thing is that they're out there. All these people are talking. And so you can go, I'm saying for me, I could go from the Georgia, Florida border. And as I traveled south, I would reach different districts of CB radio chatter, and these guys up here in Georgia be talking about totally different from what folks 100 miles south are talking about on the CB radio. Same interstate, same channel, but at the same time, there were times in the middle of the night when it was mostly just the truckers on the CB radio. That topic, whatever the subject would be absolutely the opposite, because the lanes were clear and the truckers were all of a like mind. There would be a topic, and I've done this, coming out of Atlanta, going down into Tampa, and listen to a conversation, and the same conversation be continued all the way to Tampa from Atlanta on Interstate 75 from trucker. And it's not that it was the same truckers. We'd be catching them, northbound, going southbound, but the conversation would be the same. And it wasn't that we were getting any longer distances. We were still only getting 8 to 10, maybe 15 miles on RCB radio. We were still picking up with different truckers, different call names on the same subject. Now, did they hear it from somebody else and one trucker here? The point is, for hours, this would go on as you traveled on the interstate. So then, then as the sun come up, the cars would get on, brake, then that chatter would quit and that mindset would go away. But I've observed this in many different areas over my many years of life going, this is a strange phenomenon. So, is that hive mind, or are we connecting into that quantum radio out there. So with that said, each ET, from what I've been explained to, everybody's got their own frequency. So I'm just going to use a radio dial. You know, if you want Palladians, you're going to listen to 1100. You know, if you want the Deberons, you're going to listen to 1200. You know, I mean, it's just, they've all got not necessarily a specific frequency, but they have their own channels, so to speak. I guess it'd be like subbing on YouTube or something like that. So there is a collective thought which we can all agree on spiritually. That's part of the reason why I'm trying to bring these things out. If we must think ourselves as spirits and that we can communicate as spirits, then that isn't hive mind. That is the collective. Totally different. We can all tune into this, but we have a free will to get out of it. We can stop the conversation just like that. If we wish to be somewhere else or tune into another station, we have the choice and are allowed to make that choice. Versus you will listen to this damn station of the worst, you know, whatever. Kids screaming at high pitches, you know. Ah! Okay, you know, fingers on chalkboard. Balloons. So when speaking about certain things or Palladians or different races or whatever, I know they exist. And in my mission, it's more about, yes, I would really like to know who my space brothers are. I really feel like they're Palladians. The things that I've been getting are my personal little downloads. I really can't prove them except my feelings and going outside at weird times and seeing stuff and going, well, okay, you know. So these are little proofs to myself. So, but I would rather speak on something that I can more prove than just absolutely pure speculation on my part, because that's all it would be. It's just an internal thing and speculation on my part. Now, I have been told that there are folks out there who are having these channelings we need to be careful of, because they're name dropping when the name dropping may not be accurate. The information may be, but who they're getting it from and all this other kind of stuff is like, hang on, just back up. Too many people are talking to I'm not even going to go there, because I wish to stay positive with the subject. Now, most of them have a positive push or drift or whatever of the information, a little sketchy on the side, but I believe that most of them have good intent. Now, I have issues with, you know, certain people. I guess it's like, you know, when I say Mother Mary, this is my Mother Mary messages. To me, they're like common sense kind of little blips, you know, and I'm just thinking good thoughts. And I call them in Mother Mary because they're motherly from the heart little thoughts. And all of them are geared to being as positive as possible and with as much love and respect as I can give to each one of you. And so, but to claim, and I have had visions of Mary, you know, okay. And two other, Sister Helene, and also the nun, one of the last sister from from Fatima. I've had that vision as well. The three of them appeared. But, and I've seen ghosts. A ghost saved us from the house burning down on top of us. You know, to many other paranormal things that have happened to me in the positive. Some of them not so positive, but we'll stay away from that. But so my collective information of my spirit, my having walked with the spirits from my shamanic training, sweat lodges, fasting, um, lots of meditation and prayer, natural prayer. Um, Nothing hokey pokey, really, nothing hokey pokey. Use earth magic like a crystal or sage or burn something like that, or make teas with, whatever's in the nature, but respectful ways, giving honor and respect, not worship or any time of, oh, Bob, you love it. Mm-mm-mm. It's all respect. It's all about honor. And so collectively, these things are coming together now. And now that it's like folks who are that have been giving out information over the years that I've watched, have I started to tap in to their quantum? Because I would get little touches and go, well, that sounds kind of familiar. But now I'm having like my own write them down. This is going to happen. And then they come back 2 or 3 or 4 weeks later and go, oh, guess what? Blah, 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 blah. And hit all 4 subjects that were on my mind. So am I tapping into their quantum? Am I tapping into the hive mind? I feel I'm just tapping into the same guy, person, creator, but through and the spirit guide's nothing more than like an antenna. It's just like a hand on the shoulder going okie doke. Some folks might call that channeling. I know that I have sat back and allowed the entity to come into me more and speak directly, and I don't like that. I would rather them just put their hand on my shoulder and be silent for a moment and let the feeling or the thought, whatever it is, come through. That's my channeling. And it's nothing more than a thought from heaven, in my opinion, because 99% of all thoughts that come this way have all been positive or warnings in a positive way, like, earthquake, whatever. But nothing that would be detrimental or that, curse you, blah, 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 or whatever. And so it is important for me. And a friend of mine called earlier this evening, and I was just not going to get on YouTube tonight. I was going to wait another day, but then this stimulated a conversation. And I thought, I need to get this out while I got it on my mind. And then you find folks show up. And I hope I'm not being boring with this. But to the part of the spirit, each one of us, as we allow this energy to come in, the message that I'm getting is we need to not put a name on it. Quit worrying about labels. Where too many of us have been, well, I'm Palladian or I'm this or I'm that. It's too late right now in the game to be worried about where we came from. What's more important that regardless of where we came from, we are all these ISBE beings. We are all true spirits. We need to get down to the basics right now because of all this stuff happening. And we need to get our vibrations up quicker and drop all these facades. That's what's important. That's what my message is. It's like, quit concentrating on which damn verse in the Bible is. Put the damn book down. Go sit by a tree and let Creator and Source come into your heart. If you really want this, Jesus is going to show up next to you or an angel. But quit worshiping these folks and allow the energy to come into you. Are you they? And have I been catching the whack? Oh boy, Dave. Don't you think you've gone just a little too far with talking about this? It's only going to be heard by those who need to hear it. That's my point. My crying and being emotional are seeing the people who are going to look at my easy way of looking at things and go, well, but I can't get to heaven without the Bible or the church or something. You're blasphemy. Look, my granny that I used to be attached to mentally, telepathically. I told stories about me calling her up and her picking up the phone and dial, back in the days when there were dial phones, and so it's like, and the priest told us that don't you want your grandma to be baptized before she dies, right? And we'll come and give her last rites. And Granny was like, no, I don't feel like I've done anything wrong in my life to be baptized and saved for. And Granny was one of the sweetest people I ever knew. She hardly ever raised her voice. And most of those times, was, hey, you kids, quit doing that. One of you's going to get hurt, like electrocuted or something. I mean, but Granny never scolded us much. And she was always there. When I was put in prison, my granny showed up more than any other person to come visit me. And she was in her 60s then, pushing 70. And grandma went through the frisking and everything to come see me. And to me, she is a holy woman. And they told me that because she didn't belong to any particular church or religion, that her soul was bound to hell. And I was, this woman is holy in my opinion, of all the things she's done for all these people. And then you're telling me on her deathbed, if she doesn't get these sacraments and rites and everything, that her soul's going to hell? I don't think so. And I quit. That was now that's been 30 years ago. So that's been a long time. But to the point though, back then, I mean, I really have, Grandma and I, we always knew spiritually other things that she wouldn't even allow me to discuss with her daughters, my stepmom kind of thing, and my Aunt Shirley. But to the point though, when all the preachers wanted to say, well, but she's gonna go to hell if she does. How can you preach that? And so the God of your God is the God of wrath, who a person who has led a good life all the years, all the years I knew my granny, she was always respected, always kind, always, 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 and never expected anything in return, and when she got it, she would blush, And so you're trying to tell me that my granny's going to hell. Now that just shows me what kind of thinking, and that why should I believe in your God who has damned my grandmother because she didn't go to your church, whatever it was? But you want to, oh man. And then come to find out that the guys that was going to give her the last rites are pedophiles, Oh, but the pedophile is going to give my saintly grandmother last rites, so she will go to heaven. I have to rethink that, And so to my Catholic friends, other Catholic people, you really need to think about that last rite thing. Really, really, really. I don't want a priest touching me if I'm going out of here or dead. Leave me alone. But now here's something that I wanted to bring up, that it came to me in one of my little Mother Mary moments. And I'd spoken about this before, about how our DNA is being changed, and how, we used to be able to, we've grown 2 sets of teeth in our lifetimes, most of us. And I'm still trying to figure out how to grow new teeth after all these years. But the fact that our DNA has been activated or deactivated, and that these resonances and things coming through right now could very well change our DNA and help to turn dormant DNA on. I mean, I would love to grow, feathers and fly. Maybe not. I'm joking on that one. Well, the flying part would be cool. I know I have learned how to fly in a different way, and it's really cool, by the way. But something that someone had said after the fact are like, well, you keep saying that we are our own creators. And yeah. And, I try to stay away from that we are all gods, but we are definitely all angels. Let's just, let's just leave it there. But to the point of being, do we have superpowers? I'm looking at my hand, and I have a really bad burn mark that's right there. See the white spot right there? Anyway, that was part of my shamanic training. This is my badge. This is my pass, if you will. And I had to lay a burning coal on my hand and leave it there, 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 and then take it off. I really don't know how long I had it on, because the point of the lesson was to not feel the pain. Now, after I finished and came out of the meditation, I went to pick up something with my left hand, and I was 2 feet away from the fire, and as my hand turned towards the flame, my hand started to burn. I mean, it went from no pain to my fist is a torch with flames coming off. But then at the same point, I realized that how much I was able to block all that through control, and that it stayed sore for about 10 days. But I'm talking, I had that hot coal on my hand for, I don't know, 5 minutes, maybe 10, a long time. It was like it had lost its coal when I took it off. So, but to the point though, it never blistered up. It hurt, and I put salve on it, and I did the thing, but it healed over. But now I have my mark. Now, why do I tell this story? Because that's a miracle of healing. That's a miracle of what we can do with our bodies. I mean, I'm not saying everybody should go out and do this. No, that was part of my training. That was part of what I needed to learn. But to the point, if you cut your finger or arm or something or whatever it is, it grows back. And if with just a little bit of care, so you keep dirt and stuff out of it, fine. But if you just keep it clean or close the wound, just natural stuff, it will heal itself. That's magic, isn't it? I mean, if we had a magic wand and went, oh, abracadabra, I'm going to heal the wound. Well, I prayed over my hand. It never got really bad. It never swelled up and blistered. I mean, it was just really sore, Oh my God, the skin never actually came off. It just stayed watery, and I kept it, and it stayed on. Wow. So the power that our bodies already possess, without going into any kind of hocus pocus, is already so amazing. So the more we tune into these things, and in my opinion, the more we can tune into the collective quantum area, there's information up there. And it might just come in a thought or maybe a dream, like maybe I should drink more of something, or maybe I need something, whatever. Maybe it's, like for me, so I love grapes, but grapes are good for the body. There's almost everything on a grapevine's good. And so it might be that information comes your way. It might be that something happens and you require a tincture of something or whatever it is. But if you allow yourself and just say, I'm not looking for any particular thing, and maybe something will come. And what the interesting things that I have found is that I might find an obscure article about something and then go, that's interesting. And then 2 days later, need a salve because I bumped my arm. I'm just saying. But there are synchronicities in all kinds of stuff. And the more we are aware of those, the more they will appear. And to a lot of people, it's magic. And it is. It's earth magic. It's our natural magic. Majik. That's my spelling, because I don't want it to get confused with anything else. The collective consciousness, I believe so, and of course you guys do too. Um, Lots of newbies entering the shifts, so people who have had experience and done the research help guide. Yes, that is that's my goal, and to try to keep it as simple as possible, without a bunch of hullabaloo. And that's what's going to, because there are people, and I've talked about this before about the, atheist. I totally understand why atheists are atheists. I'm not worshiping any damn God either, you know? Um, and I'm sorry, but I'm not worshiping Jesus because he's my equal. No, I'm not worshiping anybody. I will adore him. I will respect him. I will love him and I will honor him, but I'm not worshiping anybody. And that's where folks get turned off about religions. Oh, that you have to worship something. No, we don't. Sorry about that, but the worship part of this has got to drop. It ain't about worship. It's not about a cult. It's about just believing that it is. The earth is a hermetic seal. Nothing can escape it. Well, the changes, there's been a change. Hang on, I'm going to come back to that. So all that is and even to come already is in the collective. An idea can manifest anywhere in the world, and yet it never is an original thought. Sort of. I think each one of us interpret the information. So it is original in that it's our interpretation, although the collective main core of that thought might be. The other thing is the earth has been sealed. Now, I found a very strange correlation, and I reported about this before, about how my digital clocks weren't matching, and the time, the digital clock on this computer, the digital on my Roku box, the digital on my phone, and my house clock, which is a battery operated just clock. Now, I haven't changed my clock on the wall. I just left it. It's an hour past. So I'm on Eastern David time. But so this clock on this computer stays correct with the digital time. Now, for 3 weeks or more, the digital on the Roku box was an hour off. It matched the time on my house clock. The digital clock on the house phone, which is, radio phone, click into the base, it was an hour and 6 minutes off. Weird. On the first, there was a really weird kind of feeling I just can't put my finger on. But I woke up, I'd had the Roku off and the TV off for a day. I refused to turn it on. But when I turned everything back on, the Roku box, it's back. So it's almost like my little time bubble that I was describing that was weirdly going on here in my location somehow reset itself. Now they've all been hooked up to the same damn phone line the whole time, but why have they been off? What's the weirdness in the time shift and things mending? So the information I was getting is that things are mending and you will see signs. Well, okay, all of a sudden, now the digital clocks match. And something else kind of feels like realigned. I don't know. It's just a feeling, but something seems to be lining back up again. All right, that's cool. What else is going on? Well, then all these other things are coming into synchronicity. People discussing the same thing a day or so apart from one another. Obscure stuff out in the wilderness kind of deal. Woo-woo things. And going, I mean, even NASA's coming out with some stuff that are like, you talked about what? So it's very interesting. And I say that those of us here in this little group and other folks too, but we as a collective, if we just keep our brains together and don't panic, stay on the positive. I mean, I've I've been in some situations, for example, we were out sailing in the Gulf of Mexico and beautiful clear day, and we hadn't been out but an hour and a half and hadn't been too far out from the end of the where the channel markers are. Anyway, get out there, and is likely on off the coast like that, some thunderstorms roll in. Holy crap. When you're in a sailboat out in the middle of flat water and there's lightning hitting everywhere, you need to go back to shore. Stay away from the thing. It was a nasty electric storm. So, what we had to go through to get out of the rain and away from the lightning and to come back into port as quickly as we did, we had to endure about an hour and a half's worth of really nasty, hard storm yuck. But to get back into port, and then we were safe and everything was okay. And when you stop and look back on what you just had to go through, you go, wow, how did we do that? Well, because you had to. You had to just buckle up and do what you needed to do. And those people on the boat, because we're all in this together, brother. You don't want the boat to go over. You don't want the sails to go bad. You don't want this, the waves to picked up, blah, blah, blah. You all have to work together in order to get the ship back into port. And so there are times when the winds in the sail and the ringing in the wire is so loud, you can't hear. So when you look at somebody and point, you're projecting your thoughts to that person on the other end of the sailboat. We're going to do this or that. We're going to tack, blah, blah, blah. And it's actually more thought than it is any kind of hand sign. Also knowing what to do and what the sail about and the sailing boat is. But to the point, there's a lot of communication that's never spoken. And people who have ever worked together on a sailboat or something like that, they'll let you know, yeah, when the wind's up there, you can't, hey, Bob, trim that. No, they can't hear that, It's all, wave your arm and go like this and point up or something. But most of it is that you're thinking to the other person what your intention is. And because they're on the same boat, you're all feeling the same kind of energy. So that's a collective. That's part of the collective and not a hive mind, just making the differential. But those are also ways that you can test it yourself. If you're ever on a sailboat or working it like that together, you'll get that kind of feeling and camaraderie, and also how that you're communicating, how much of your mental capacity you're actually using versus verbal or any kind of hand signals. We're a lot smarter than people give us credit to. So Mr. Wade and Marie and whoever else might be on, I love you all. It is 6:05 Eastern Daylight Time here in South Georgia. And I'm going to make my best attempt to go into town early, because tomorrow being the 4th, I need chicken feed, and my check hopefully will be in today, and I'll be able to go get my provisions and then head back out of town before all the drunk drivers and all them all them good old boys have a good time. No, it's not too bad anymore around here. It's actually kind of calm. Folks realize, look, I'm going to go there and stay there, and even have to camp out on the front seat of my truck. I'm going to not drink and drive. You have a good morning, Miss Marie, or good evening, and y'all keep it between the ditches. I hope this conversation has been at least enlightening or reinforcing or something. We are all in this together. Pass along the good energy. So with love, greetings, blessings to everyone. Be safe, be careful, have a wonderful time, and I will talk to you soon. I got way too much more to talk about, but the best thing is I love you. Take care. Give everybody a hug and be safe. Till next time.